The Old Testament scriptures say that there is a good spirit in the world. We would like to find that good spirit. We would want to be part of that good spirit. It inspires us to speak words of hope, words of compassion to people in adverse circumstances. It points us to pathways to find some release from the negativity and fear that can so often pervade our way of living. If only we could be in touch with such a good spirit. If only we could develop a spiritual awareness that would help us rise above our difficulties, bring better harmony into our lives, and help us to be better human beings in ourselves and towards each other, and in the way we live in the world. But we don't put our spiritual awareness high on our list of desired qualities. Look at when people go for a job. When you go for a job, do people ask you about your spiritual awareness? Not so. They ignore it. Is it important? Obviously not. Teachers training young kids at school. Is training them in their spiritual awareness important? Is it ever mentioned? Do we develop those skills? Politicians putting together their policies for the society that they think should exist. Do you hear them saying, by the way, a good spiritual awareness is a high priority here? Now and again you hear it, but ever so rarely. Spiritual awareness. Does it just drop down from heaven for some people? Or are there ways to develop a spiritual awareness? Are there specific skills involved? And if so, should we learn those skills? From time to time, you may hear people linking spiritual awareness with something about religion. William James calls it the varieties of religious experience. So we hear people linking spirituality, spiritual awareness, with something to do with religion or with their theological view of the world. But a spiritual awareness, does it come before a religious awareness or after it? Or can it be present without religion and without all those theological obscurities that you sometimes hear being parried off? Dr. Larry Culliford, back in 2011, a London psychiatrist, called his book The Psychology of Spirituality. And he wrote, many people are discovering the relevance of spirituality. That's a psychiatrist speaking. The relevance comes to the fore, he said, particularly where there is pain and suffering. And then Dr. George Valent, I've spoken about him many times here before, professor of psychiatry at Harvard University, wrote his book on the spiritual evolution, how we evolve into a spiritual awareness. But what is it? There are three aspects to it, I think. There is a very personal level of spiritual awareness. A spiritual awareness that searches for who I really am in my inner being, my search for my inner self, my inner potential, my fullest authenticity. That very personal search. That's number one level. The second level is the interpersonal, the social level. It is a search for a belonging in relationship with other people, beyond connectedness to a deeper level of community participation. That's the second level. And then there's a third level, I think, You can call it a higher level or a deeper level. It doesn't, but there's another level. It is the awareness of the world we live in. The world that gives us music and art. The world that gives us our place in all of creation. It is a searching for an effective life in the world. What the world gives us and what we can give to the world. That higher or deeper level. The psychology of spirituality is therefore deeply and persistently connected with our identity, our growth, who we are. The psychology of spirituality is connected to our belonging to each other, our community together. It's part of our resilience and adaptation to the pains and sufferings of life. It is part of our rising above those sufferings to the enhancement and enjoyment of life. It is part of our survival and our worship in life. What do we worship, in fact? William Wordsworth, the poet, many years ago, expressed his glimpse of it when he wrote these words. Listen to them. He said, "Dust we are, immortal spirit, grows like harmony in music. There is a dark, inscrutable workmanship that reconciles discordant elements, makes them cling together in one society." So where discordant elements are reconciled, there is the possibility of growth in spiritual awareness and enhancement. And so he went on to write, "I have felt a presence that disturbs me with the joy of elevated thoughts. A sense sublime of something far more deeply interfused, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, and the round oceans, and the living air, and the blue sky, and in the mind of man." There's his poetry about the Spirit. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come from God who is our home. There he is, William Wordsworth, the poet. So we'll listen to the possibilities. Spiritual awareness sometimes helps us see the world and life differently. This afternoon, today, I'm been asked to launch Howard Doss's book on Nikos, Readings of Kazantzakis. Now, some of you here will have heard me read from Kazantzakis novels many times. Who was he? Well, you remember he wrote Zorba the Greek, the Odyssey, The Last Temptation of Christ, the Fratricides, and many more. I've long been affected by the writings of this man. Howard Dossa is a widely recognised scholar of Kazantzakis, and I'm indeed honoured today that he's asked me to launch his latest book. In his books, Howard Dossa unravels the spiritual journey of all of us. He says from his readings of Kazantzakis, we come out of a profound darkness. We end in profound darkness. And we call the dazzling in-between, the intermission, life. In life we are engaged in the ascent of man. Interesting enough, Charles Darwin talked about the descent of man, descending to man. But Kazantzakis says, no, it's the other way around. It's the ascent of man from the darkness of the abyss into light. The ascent itself is man's noblest undertaking because it is the fulfillment of his essential nature and the ongoing uncovering of the endless stream of his own potential. The daily unveiling of the new, the transformation of life into more life. So he wrote, Kazantzakis wrote, life, that intervening period within the abyss of back there and then is a network of relationships. And there is no limit to the nature of those relationships. Each relationship enshrines the capacity to create new relationships. So number one, a spiritual awareness sometimes helps us to see the world and life and relationships differently. Number two, the second possibility, a spiritual awareness can lift us out of ourselves. Isn't that important? Because so often we can be so overwhelmed by what has happened to us, by our own particular internal state. Kazantzakis was aware of everyone's search for some understanding of God beyond us, he said. Beyond our understanding. So Kazantzakis turned to the almond tree and he said to the almond tree, "Speak to us of God. Speak to us of God." And the almond tree blossomed. The awareness that lifts us out of ourselves. At a very moving funeral I presided over this last week, there was no almond tree. The family dog stood in for the almond tree. As each member of the family came forward to speak, the dog came forward with each one and stood beside them. I could have said, "Speak to us of God." And the dog would have simply walked and stood beside each person. And as the coffin was wheeled out of the family home, the dog walked behind it. We get that glimpse of something beyond the ordinary, beyond ourselves. Call it what you like. It's an awareness of something bigger, broader, deeper. Thirdly, a spiritual awareness has the possibility of connecting us with the world of art and music, with creativity and colour. You've been part of music this morning. The hymns we've sung, the music you've heard, the songs that have been sung. If you listen to them in a particular way, you know that we're part of something much bigger than our specific presence in this place. We're part of the music of many ages. We're part of the colour of many ages. You see it in works of art. I'll just take one, Matisse's painting of the poppies. You might know it. If you don't know it, I hope that you'll use your phone to bring it up. The poppies. They're poppies, just smudges of paint. But those few poppies, red poppies, are painted against a backdrop of vibrant, exciting colours. They've been placed in a huge vase, seeming to hold a rich story of past poppies and past places. Music that transforms our moods, takes us on a journey of imagination and expansion. At the Rocks, the blessing of the Rocks last Sunday morning, I asked the flautist to play Grieg's Dance of the Blessed Spirit. Dance of the Blessed Spirits. If ever there was music to expand the human spirit, through a labyrinth of dreams and reality, this was surely the music to do just that. A spiritual awareness. Music may not cure our diseases, nor will music lessen the sharp edges and pain of our adverse life events. But music can deepen our spiritual awareness, give a mystical strength to our sorrows, lift us into a strange harmony with the spirits, restoring us to the ascent out of the abyss. spiritual awareness. Fourthly, it carries us to the inner quality of what our life can be. Many months ago, I used to be a regular listener to Brooks and Shields on the Saturday evening television program. They'd be there talking about current events, political events, and so on. But when I saw his book, David Brooks' book, on the bookshelves, I had to grab it. He wrote in that book, where is it? Here it is. The Road to Character. The little me, the big me, the humble path. I'd like to read you what he said. The road to character often involves moments of moral crisis, confrontation, and recovery. When people have been in a crucible moment, they can suddenly realize a great ability to see their own nature differently. The everyday self-deceptions and illusions of self-mastery are shattered. They had to humble themselves in self-awareness if they had any hope of rising transformed. After all, Alice in Wonderland had to be small to enter Wonderland. But then beauty began, David Brooks wrote, in the valley of humility. They learned to quiet the self. Only by quieting the self could they see the world clearly. Only by quieting the self could they really understand other people. When they had quieted themselves, they had opened a space for grace to flow in. They found themselves helped by people they did not expect would help them. They found themselves loved in ways they did not deserve. They didn't flail about because they felt that hands were there holding them up. Spiritual awareness. It needs an openness to it, open to its possibilities. And when you're open to that possibility, it becomes a vital part of our character. It needs regular development and redevelopment. A spiritual awareness helps us see the world and life differently. A spiritual awareness lifts us out of ourselves. A spiritual awareness connects us with the world of art and music, creativity and colour. A spiritual awareness carries us to that inner quality of what our life can be. Its quietness. Yes, its quietness has the possibility of carrying grace and strength. Would you please stand? Stand for the blessing. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.